I'm so excited. I can't even contain it, bro. We're back once again. Min to max 20. Here we are. Unfortunately, we don't have Logan, but we have Connor. And I hit up Nathan and was like, "Do you want to like really quick jump in for this in like 20 minutes?" He was like, "That's not gonna work." I was like, "All right, that's fair."
That's not even kind of enough time.
Yeah, I was like, "You know what? That's fair, dude. I shouldn't have, that was like, he's like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "Dude, I literally just thrust this at you. No reason to apologize."
Yeah.
But this evening, afternoon, whatever, we will actually be talking about BBEGs, the Big Bad Evil Guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Of stories, and then we're also gonna talk about boss fights and kind of in general. That whether it's a BBEG boss fight or just like boss fights that you have strewn out through throughout the story, and amongst the campaign that you're running. So. I'm excited, actually. I'm really excited, dude. It's been a long time. It's been like 2 months since we've done this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
but no, I'm excited too. I miss these conversations. As my favorite part is without Logan, it goes either one of two ways. Either we stay firmly on track, or we absolutely leave the rails, leave the mountain the rails were on, and start swimming.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're gonna find out. So. BBEGs, and so I guess we kind of like, just to kind of discuss and talk about it, like I would like to, there's obviously various different ones that you can have in your game, and then you can kind of complete this list together. The big ones that come to my mind is like, it's like, I wouldn't say normal people like as BBEGs, but people who aren't like some grandiose monster. It's like somebody that might have like a lot of influence, that might have a lot of like a power or authority, and that could be BBEG, where it's kind of like for instance like a human or something, right? Like an elf, but instead of them being like a dragon or like a giant like monstrosity or whatever it is, I feel like that's a type you can have. You can obviously have like dragons, monstrosities, something actually big, a huge threat. Those are the big two that come to mind when it comes to like examples. What are some that come to your mind?
I was gonna say, I think a classic one, which I'm glad you kind of corrected yourself a little bit. Dragons, I think, are a uniquely good monster, as well as like intelligent monsters that could scheme. It depends on how you run dragons. You can have Skyrim dragons in your game with the D&D stats, and that's fine. You just don't play the intelligent angle. But dragons, especially if you get into like the lore on Wizards of the Coast, like their main setting, they're schemers. They got armies. They got plots. They're doing shit. And if they got hordes, it could be a dungeon. It could be a big overarching scheme. So I think dragons and beholders are good. Though that is me saying that only because I wanted to make sure that was notated. I have never done it. Dragons are almost always just animals in my settings. Though I haven't done fantasy in a while. And it's almost always dudes. I am very drawn to like I haven't never done liches. I did have like one character that we played. You guys never even met because I think we're all as DMs somewhat guilty of our first campaign. It's like, in about 2025, when they're about level 17, like this reveal's gonna go crazy if they took notes.
Exactly.
One of the guys I kind of soft launched there was a former PC's character got his permission who was like corrupted by whatever, so that was a form of higher powerful boss. I say that because most of the time my big bad evil guys are bureaucrats or politicians. Like they're guys like if we could walk up, punch him in the head, and like if he had commoners, like I have to make up a reason why he doesn't have commoner stats, But for the most part, I find like those stories are more interesting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean like the main bad guy could be just a paladin, like just paladin of a different god who's encroaching on the party's turf or.
It's actually hilarious that you mentioned that because one of my bosses that I'm going to pull up is actually a fallen paladin, and I'll explain that later. But no, I do agree. I think that when it comes to like being intricate and like really weaving like a more like kind of detailed story, generally having like just like Joseph, bro, who was he got kicked out of art school. You know what I'm saying?
Careful now. Careful now.
But
I clocked that maybe too quickly, but I clocked it.
But you have someone like that because then it makes it so they have to do a lot more to become relevant and a lot more to kind of like like get like a broadened a broad influence and have that. But I do think, man, I think because I was gonna ask you, you already kind of answered it, what your favorite kind of BBEG is, and I would say for me, I do love me like a very extremely powerful entity or creature, whether that's like a dragon, like you mentioned, a lich, or something along that nature. I really like. I also, for me, in my mind, I just love like large scale combats where like there's like 6 or 7 party members against this massive thing, and you're just like, all right, go, and like it's just so like there's just such a large scale conflict, which
is why we fully simp for Tailspire, because if you're playing online, that is, if you put the time in to learn it, that is the way to go. But they added a couple things there that make it a lot easier as well to just throw something together. Not that I use and abuse the community mod system in any way, shape, or form.
Dude, I was looking at that a little bit, and the fact that you like people can build things and you can just save it and upload it to like the catalog, dude, and you can just smash them out. Super cool, man. I love that.
Especially me, who uses sci-fi. Like I have doubled the amount of things I'm able to use from like an entity standpoint because of the community mod. So if you ever have done a community mod on Tailspire, we love you. And if you haven't, check them out. They're cool.
Yeah. Hey, we're not sponsored with Tailspire. We always recommend them.
Not at all. No. Fuck, it'd be cool.
That'd be sick, dude. One day, hopefully. One day. If Tailspire devs are watching, bro, please hit us up.
Daddy, please.
Please.
But yeah, I like the huge combats as well. One thing, I feel like this is maybe just me as a DM, something I've been doing somewhat recently. I recognize what I really enjoy doing. I like big fights. Like, I've had a lot of fights where it's kind of hard to determine who in the encounter. I almost always have like a boss in the encounter in some way, even if it's just a different type of the creatures or people there. But it's kind of hard to identify who that is, and largely because I do schemer type bosses. You know, I do a boss who's like one of the people. And recently, I just kind of, in our home game, kind of introduced the party to a character they're starting to get to know a little bit, whose whole deal is it's just the dude. He might be talking with other people, but like when it comes to combat, it's like it's him with himself shooting you in the head, like, and that's it. It's just like that's the whole deal. It can get more complicated or less complicated depending on how the party interacts. And obviously, I'm not saying too much because you're here and you're hopefully going to join in and get shot by him. But
hell yeah, dude.
I had a thought. It was actually, I was thinking about different characters I wanted to introduce, like different tropes, and I just really love. Ever seen the movie No Country for Old Men? Anton Chigurh, if you've seen it, he's just is a psychopath. He just travels around, just like kills people somewhat randomly, but there's like a weird code to it.
Oh yeah, like professional set standards, even though like doesn't like.
Yeah, but it's not even professional. It's just like his own like personal philosophy that is like warped and twisted because of everything he is.
Also, real quick, welcome in, Sap. Welcome in. Good to see you. We got Sup. We're just
I didn't port in that character that I wanted. I'm holding a character maybe like that in my back pocket for perhaps a game in October.
Hey, hold on.
Hold on, dude.
Hey, wait a minute.
We can talk about that later off.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited too. But no, it did kind of inspire me to make sure in Axum Run, which is kind of where I play test all my fun tropes and ideas. Like, why not have a character who operates in the same way, just alone, and make that in his own way, in a side story or whatnot, his own BBEG. Because big bad evil guys, they're normally use it to talk about like the main bad guy for a campaign, but it could be an arc, it could be a side, 100%. Missions. Yeah, like we've probably offed like 8 of them in my campaign.
Well, I think that, I mean, yeah, you can use them to like to propel the story, and you can obviously it's like the culminating thing, or someone whoever's causing an issue or causing this portion of the story. It can be just as important to kill Leroy's henchman as it is to actually kill homie, because he's doing something somewhere. So
right, yeah.
And then so to kind of keep moving on for so we kind of talked about like the different examples. Are there any other examples that you had though outside of just kind of like?
It's the scheme, those are 2 very macro ends of the scale, but that's like one axis. There's the guy who's like, I got a lot of folk, and there's the guy who's it's just me. I think another thing, I guess we are kind of talking about like physically what they are is more important. Really, boils down to martial or spellcaster, which I think are very important ends of the spectrum. That doesn't mean a martial character can't have magical utility. Yeah. But I think it kind of ties in because you're never doing just one area of D&D in a vacuum. how the character, if the character's a martial or magical character, is going to influence both combat and the story. So I kind of like build those together in tandem. Like, how do I want this guy to operate in the world? And like, if I'm making a plan there, but I'm like, but in the fight I want to do in this encounter, like, I do really like the idea of doing this. Well, maybe I changed. Like, you're the DM. You're in the design standpoint. Like, you're almost always drafting blueprints. There's no reason you can't be like, maybe he's a sorcerer instead.
Yeah,
you know?
they'll throw a couple levels right before the fight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here by the way, he actually had magic this whole time.
Yeah.
But that's where I think
the encounter right before the party just curb stomped everything. It's like, he's 2 levels higher. Yeah, he's 2 levels higher.
Let me go ahead and add 30,000 hit points. Well, I was gonna say what's also kind of nice too, and we can talk about this a little more in depth, is when you like throwing additional characters into the BBEG's like kind of realm of into his arsenal, like having people pick up for areas that might be better to kind of combat the party with, which we'll actually save that for a little bit. But I do want to say, we kind of already discussed it a little bit. How do you go about creating and like making a BBEG in terms of like the standpoint? Like, I guess like we kind of have the primary examples that we've already discussed of like either massive monstrosity or a person. So like I'd say that's probably the groundwork, where like kind of the baseline as to where you like, I would say we generally choose. Is that the case for you as well, where it's like you choose kind of like what the trope is and then you build them out?
I would love to say there is a way I do it that is uniform. I think my favorite way I've done it, I absolutely did it in the Red Mire, and I do it all the time in Axum Run for a lot of like, it's just the bigger enemies, because I feel like you can always talk about the small scale stuff, but I feel like for the main thrust of the campaign you're doing, I try to find ways where people's backstories could intersect in interesting ways. Like if you're blessed enough to have party members that send you a backstory, punish them a little bit for it, because that's kind of what they want. You know, they don't want to write a whole backstory about like, I went to this college and there's this falling out with, you know, the headmaster there and whatever, and if you could find a way to bring it up a little bit, and especially if they get attack that person that has hit points now, that's fantastic and fun for everybody. But a lot of the ways I'll try to, if like say that headmaster described there's also a heist that went wrong for the rogue, you have to make sure it makes sense to the story you're telling, but why can't those be related entities or a related organization that was now bad at both of you? You know, you didn't know you both crossed the same group. You know, maybe there's, you know, you kind of like find a way to get inspired by that. It's a large part of how I planned my Big Bad Evil Guys. Another way, my favorite way for Big Bad Evil Guys to manifest is when the party fucks up really bad.
Oh yes,
story.
yeah, that's the way,
favorite.
dude. That's the way.
If a robbery goes wrong, or they choose not to save a group of people, or they're just kind of dicks to a guy, that's always my favorite way. I always like it to come back and bite them in the ass, even if the parties don't ever really learn lessons. Just like, here's the consequences. It's manifesting as a dude that's gonna have like, he has 4th level Hellish Rebuke and you're level 5. Good luck.
Bro, it's like the
have
dude,
fun with it.
The dude they slightly inconvenience shows up, and then the party's like, oh, if it's not the consequences of my actions, and they kill him, and they're like, I learned nothing, and then they go do it against somebody else.
I remember there was a campaign. I think you managed to be gone this one session. It was probably the most insane session of D&D I've ever played.
Yeah, it was the one session I was gone. I was the one session I was gone.
One of the characters talked his way into getting a gun, which I'm like, that's fine. It's not very well known. He tries to use it to threaten a guy while gambling. The guy's like, I don't know what that is. Gets shot. His dick comes off or whatever because he rolled high. The guy's like escaping from the bar. The party like grapples him, slams his head to the ground, robs his pockets, like just villainous stuff. And then the party immediately goes in and robs a temple.
That's right. That's
their immediate next action, which is where the guy was going anyway. So it's just like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna come back. Like, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, the dickless paladin was coming with a vengeance. That people ended up moving away, so we didn't get to continue that story. But your relatively kind, docile friends will amaze you when given the full flexibility of what Dungeons and Dragons really is.
Oh yeah.
Any kind of tabletop role-playing game, it's like your very kind, lovely friends will go like, we could set fire to the tavern if the tab's too high. Like, I don't give a shit. Can I stab somebody on the way out? I just kind of want that. Like,
you get that rush, you know. I can't do it in real life, so I'm gonna, do it in imaginary life.
Yeah. So, I'd say situational be it big bad evil guys, whatever you can create in the story is almost always better than what you plan. But when I can plan it, it's almost always going to be tied to a backstory, at least initially.
Yeah, well, I think it's important because I think that having a big bad evil guy, I think, is so important in terms of, or it's when you're creating one, it's so important to have them something or someone that the party can be emotionally invested in, you know. And I think that's also like we always mentioned here, that like make sure you're communicating with your players, and that's a big thing because if your players are like, bro, I just want to kill the fucking Tarask. That's like our end goal. It's like, okay, or we want to keep, like, we want this final fight, we want this big threat or whatever. You can kind of have that discussion, right? And so I think that's where you kind of tailor a game. But I think if there isn't that discussion, or you don't want necessarily, you know, you kind of just want it to be like an open world feel, and then as the party like progresses through, they can choose, and then maybe then like, you know, they have those instances where they cross somebody and it becomes relevant.
Right.
I think it's important to have the party emotionally invested in whatever it is, because then it makes like the actual encounter with this individual or entity much more dramatic. And I think, like you were saying, backstory driven, like generally your friends will care about one another. And so if it's backstory driven, not only is that person who it's about super invested, but then everyone's like, yo, dude, hey, we gotta make sure this guy knows this homie's got shooters still. And so like everyone's trying to beat their ass and kick their teeth in because, you know, they have something, it's something that they want to do that their characters, you know, are trying to actively accomplish.
Another great way to especially, I know this happens especially with newer players, they'll make a backstory that is you know, it's a good enough backstory, but you know, you don't have that flexibility. There's not a lot in the backstory. It's like, I had parents, they died tragically, they're killed by a wolf, and I'm here to kill a wolf. You know, like you can get those backstories, so there's nothing. So if you have a backstory that doesn't have emotional entanglement there, create some emotional entanglement. Maybe there's a tavern they frequently go to, like the party keeps going to the same place, they make friends and contacts. Maybe, you know, they start a business, you like let them foster that and such, and then when you have a big bad evil guy, he breaks it. They will immediately care about him so much.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If he just like, not just like he just walks in and it's like, Alakazam, your fucking family's dead again, like fucking, but you know, like, give them something they care about and then threaten it or damage it in some way. That's a good way to, you know. Now everything before, if you just treat everything that's happened before that session as a form of very well acted backstory, with a bunch, like, you've got to know it very well. It's like, okay, well, now play with it as if it was a backstory.
Yeah.
You know, that's sometimes a helpful way to go about it too.
Well, I think it's also super cool because backstories are ever evolving, I feel like, a little bit, because like I would say, like, it depending on how old your character is, or depending on like what lifestyle they held. I like to, I mean, I'm never opposed to, like, if even in like 10, 15, 100 sessions later, if maybe something comes up organically, and then maybe you can, I would say in a way you can like write it in, or maybe expand on something that wasn't expanded upon initially when they turned it in, you know? Or they could be like, oh, you know, it'd be kind of cool, and, you know, and tie things in like that. Because I think that whenever I'm as a character turning a backstory, or as a, you know, DM, I'm reading them, I'm kind of like, I try to fill in some of the gaps, but then as it unfolds, it also kind of starts to evolve anyway.
Right. I think we talked about this on the channel before, talking about like session zeros and session ones.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has an idea of what their character or campaign will be like until session one, and then you kind of know what it's going to be like. You have characters on paper. Once you start kind of like stretching a little bit with them and talking with them and such, then you kind of like, this guy was going to be gruff, and now he's kind of silly. Okay, well, that's the direction we're going, you know.
Right.
So it's the campaign does the same thing too. You can have a big bad evil guy. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna be like a high level intrigue guy. Then it's like the party's like, we're like, we broke into a bakery to play like snowball fights with the dough. It's like, maybe the guy's a little bit more of a mercenary captain. That feels like a little bit more the direction we're going.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, and so I think also, I'm trying to think. It's also important to kind of, and we mentioned this all the time, fluidity too, and maybe and just the way, and I guess this actually ties to the next talking point, is how do they stay relevant to the story? And I think it just depends on the various things that happen along the way, right? And what occurs by them directly, or by, you know, them you know, influencing something. Because I think sometimes you can just have like and I know you do a good job about this of just like having there being a passage of time. And then, like, you're like, because I'll sometimes just be like one track mind where it's like, oh, the party's doing this. That's what I'm focused on. But you do a really good job of being like, hey, by the way, it's been 3 months. Now here's what this dude's been doing. Here's what the big bad evil guy's been doing. Here's what his henchmen have been doing. And you'll either sprinkle that in or it'll come to light at some point. And so I need to be a little bit better about doing that. But I think that's really important is making them a continued like proponent of the story and at least name dropping them in different ways enough to be like, okay, that objective is still on our mind. Or them exiting too, because I mean, if depending on the game you're running, maybe that dude becomes irrelevant, or maybe he did like a thing, and your party's like, yeah, that was crazy anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll say one thing as far as like keep it like the background characters, what they're doing. You don't need to pay attention to that every month, every day. You don't need to pay attention to it every session. Just like once in a while, go like, especially in fantasy campaigns, depending on what the level of magic is, communication's somewhat limited.
That's
true. If characters are traveling, they're on like a type of odyssey, perhaps in a frozen wasteland for some bullshit for a dude who's not even showing his real face. Yeah, you're not getting updates, you know?
You're
so,
right.
Yeah, maybe when you get to town, if there's like a reliable amount of information from scrying or something, you can get that. Or it could just be mail. Like you get to town exasperated, the fucking Skyrim courier's behind you. It's like, got a message I'm supposed to deliver. And just like the big bad guy fucked up a keep pretty good. Damn it! I liked that keep. You know, so yeah, I would not say I keep track of what all the characters are doing at all times. But there are some times I'm not taking my medication and I'm absolutely doing that. I'm just like, this guy's he's got a new fit, so we got to go back on a Hero Forge. And
oh yeah, dude.
Update him a little bit.
Dude, Hero Forge. I wish you could purchase a mini and then make like very limited adjustments, like maybe recolor them. I know it'd be really a pain in the ass. By the way, Hero Forge is another thing that we use. You know, you can make minis and then you can export them to Tailspire, dude.
Yeah.
And you can add them to Tailspire, so it's even better.
It is pretty fucking awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But how I would say the best way I keep enemies relevant to a story isn't far off from what you asked or what you mentioned about like here's what they're doing. It can be very simple. Like if the party is kind of going town to town handling problems, every once in a while like have a problem that's thematic and like actively like seems like the bad evil guy had a hand in it. Like if it's like a necromancer of sorts, maybe like there's a disproportionate amount of jobs they're doing that are handling like graveyards, you know, or like say there's clerics that have to go and like sanctify holy places that have been corrupted, or you know deal with like different types of undead forest creatures that keep coming around, or like if it's like say demonic energy, then maybe something else. Or if it's, it could be politics. Maybe it's just like you keep seeing like border skirmishes between kingdoms that you have to go and like handle the fallout or even be involved in because, you know, the evil king from that side of the river is a real douche and he keeps, you know, causing problems. Yeah, it's just an absolute king dick of that side of the river. You know,
we were born on this side of the river, so fuck him.
Yeah, fuck you.
Fuck him.
What are you, French? Get out of here. And then they had 100 years of war.
Yeah. And then they built a bridge, but that bridge was only so they could fucking fight.
Yeah.
But I also to continue off of that as well, time restrained things or time sensitive too, because you could also have like a massive creature or massive threat, like it, you know, maybe it's like building up strength. Because for instance, one of the games I ran, it was a Dracolich that was in Shadowfell. And it was the party having to kind of figure out where they were, like what they were doing, because it was amassing an army. It was gathering strength. It was to then come over and like trying to figure out the agents and who was like actually assisting this Dracolich into, you know, coming back to the material plane to start fucking shit up. And so just having things like that and having those kind of be the relevant things of like, oh yeah, we're on a time clock because it's either we figure this out or it's gonna be, you know, extremely bad for everybody involved.
So. Right, no, absolutely. I like time constraints too. I've done time constraints somewhat recently, where it's like, hey, and it's fun to do it in combat too. It's like, here's 2 directions you can go. You do like kind of the video game thing, allowing the party to figure it out if they can. There's 2 ways it can go. Bad things happen if you don't go this way. Bad things happen this way. What do you want to do, gang? You know? Yeah. And but as a DM, also be aware that can split the party.
Oh, we love that.
Which is a somewhat reasonable thing to do. I don't mind the party being split. I just have to like be aware of like what my schedule is for the next month.
Yeah, exactly.
And gotta work around that. Cause fuck yeah, we split the party somewhat often in Axiom Run.
Splitting the party is just like, dude, it's just like 2 sessions then at that point. You're having to run
I literally
2
play
games.
2 or 3 sessions a week if we split the party.
Yeah, literally splitting the party.
It's
Yeah.
drowning in D&D.
Dude, the train heist, dude, was like 15 sessions of party splitting. I was like, holy shit, this dude's working full-time job and he's full-time DMing. Holy shit.
Dude. And you know what? I think it was worth it. I think
It was
worth
great.
it.
I think it was awesome.
No one died, which was frustrating.
That does suck, yeah.
Well, Avach, when you guys got together, someone died, so that worked out.
That's true.
Yeah, because Corey Stacy, who was playing in the Red Mire, his character was quite flamboyantly murdered. Like with pizzazz.
Oh, wait, you talking about,
Sable.
Sable? Oh, yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
dude.
when he got
RKO from
suplexed from like
Planet.
150. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was good.
Gotta love that. Gotta love that.
Is there anything else in terms of, like, BBEG stuff
no.
that you wanted to bring up?
No, I was more wondering because you asked me about relevance, like how to keep the BBG relevant. That's the letter. That's a series.
BBEG.
BBEG relevant. Oh, do you do anything different with that? Is there another way you try to like have the party like keep tabs on him or have his influence be known, or?
I think. I mean, usually when you have someone like this. Usually when you have like the overarching villain and stuff, they usually do have like a pretty wide realm of influence, or ties to the story. I think for me, in terms of like just relevance, I like to just like sprinkle kind of like plot things along the way in terms of like how they can like continue to, like, for instance, the game with the Draculich, right? So they had to move through and they had to go to these different places to get information on where they, like, you know, how they could be or how they could locate them, where they were and stuff like that. But then on top of that, they're doing side quests and trying to, like, you know, become like stronger and like figure different things out. So I think it really is just kind of like what kind of BBEG you're dealing with on how they can stay relevant. It's very like kind of flexible in terms of like of that in that capacity, but not really. I think that you pretty much nailed it, right? It's just kind of keeping them kind of engaged within the story, having them kind of pop up every once in a while. Or also kind of something that we have, like, we've been talking a lot about, like, the destruction, the death, the wake that they have, but also like having like running into NPCs that are emotionally invested as well, is a big thing too. You don't even always have to necessarily have backstory things. You could have like characters. I think you did actually say this, but you can have characters meet somebody, and then they really come to enjoy that person, and then something happens to them, and they're like, "Oh, nope, absolutely not. We gotta kick this dude's ass right now."
You gotta know your party though, because you'll be surprised how little some people care.
That's also true.
That.
That's also true. You try to make like a homie,
like,
and
you just met Jane, the not yet widow. And after a couple of sessions, she became Jane the Widow, and everyone's like, "Yeah, that fucking happens, man. Streets are rough."
Yep. You try to inject them, and they're like, "Oh, who are you again?" Yeah. You're like, "Oh my god." And then you have to sit there for 10 minutes explaining everything that happened because they don't take notes, and you're like, "Oh, yeah. Damn."
Oh my god. God, I've had it happen so bad just a little bit ago, like a couple sessions ago. Well, I'm like monologuing about something a character just found out, and then that character's like, "What?" God damn it!
Damn. No. I know, it kills like.
Wait a minute. Wait, was that what happened?
Kills the reveal. Yeah, when you say.
No, it didn't even. Yeah.
You're like,
didn't even quite kill the reveal. It's just like, out of everybody here, you're the only person who actually doesn't. Can't say what. Like.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, hey, as players, man, make sure you remember your backstory. And make sure you take...
There's that.
Well, I think also just like taking notes, and that's why also like doing recaps at the beginning of sessions is also kind of important. Even if it's just to stress certain things, you know, and be like, when we last left off, you guys were hunting down Jimbo, who stole the bread from the bakery, and that sucks. And then, you know, just give them a little bit of yeah, dude, beat their ass. I think just having those like little bit of having those summaries on what was happening, kind of getting everyone kind of highlighting keynotes, and kind of keep highlighting those keynotes as it progresses. But
absolutely, yeah.
I think definitely having NPCs also is a big proponent of pushing relevance of the overarching story. And because I mean, your party members also might not give a single fuck about one another, but they really, really, really care about Boblin the Goblin, and they'll literally like they'll do whatever it takes. And so you just kind of have to find what how your party kind of interacts. Like we mentioned, you create all these character sessions here. You start, and even at I'd say 5 to 10 sessions, you're still learning a lot. You're trying to figure out how the party works, how they operate, their skill sets too, and kind of almost tailoring the boss to the skill set or the opposite, to the opposite, or to the almost the kryptonite of that it can be, or something that would at least challenge them, because having a super easy culminating event boss is kind of lame, or it's kind of lackluster. Now, obviously, different things can affect that, but there should still be a challenge in it.
Yeah, when we get to the combat portion, I do have a thought on that.
Yeah,
kind of a fallback I've used. We'll get there when we get there. Anyway. But you asked me about things that are like you like, that anything else relevant to the BBEG before we kind of reiterated on you. The only thing I will say about that is kind of twofold. For one, like have an interesting personality. If the character has a personality, it's somebody who's going to be talking a lot.
Oh yeah.
Have it be interesting, and like there's nothing wrong with having just an evil bastard. There's nothing wrong with the guys just like I'm here to boil the oceans because I hate sea life.
Blow up the moon.
Yeah, I'm here to nuke orphanages. That's my deal. I'm evil. I serve the god of evil.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be his number 2. And sometimes you have a guy who's like, like maybe more morally gray, but just is in opposition of the players, But like depending on what, like, for one as a DM, have fun with it, but also like have a consistent personality that's engaging for the players, because you don't want to, like, you want to be able to kind of start monologuing as that character without like introing it, and the players theoretically go, oh, that's that guy,
Yeah.
So that's a whole other, that's a skill set that hopefully as DMs we can get to.
Yeah. Well, actually,
no, just like make it more dramatic and fun.
I guess that's that's a 100% good point. We're kind of talking about BBGs in the story, but I like that you brought that up because it just like jarred everything off the shelf, dude, in my mind. Because I think we're talking about like what the BBEG is in terms of like the story, but like who they are is so important, and making a compelling character, because you can literally, because like. For instance, whenever like you watch a movie, dude, like, the fucking shitty kid in Game of Thrones, that dumbass Lannister kid that like,
Joffrey.
Dude, Joffrey, man, it's like you just want to beat the brakes off that dude with a metal bat, and it's like you get so pissed off, but it's like, but then you like you get so annoyed and you just like hate that character, and they die, you're so happy, but it's like taking a step back and being like, dude, someone had to act that character out.
Yeah,
someone
I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a phenomenal actor.
Phenomenal. Yeah. It's like that's a big thing, trying to emulate that, because it's like you want to embody whatever it is that you're embodying. If it's like a dude, it's a psychotic scientist, or like this like weird like mad dude, embodying that with like mannerisms and with how you're conveying them. If it's just like a psychopath who's wants to burn down the local orphanages and stuff, convey that. If it's like a greedy like dragon, convey that. It's really important to really get down there, because that also gives relevance. Then your party's like, I want to just beat the brakes off this thing, or I want to like stop this person from existing, so we got to do that.
I would say also one thing that I had to recognize somewhat recently is I was ready for like this really intense kind of fight, and it was like the first time they're gonna hear from the people they're fighting, and I kind of had a recognition of you in your head. This is a really intense guy, and like, oh my god, he has all this. He's so important, and he's kind of evil in his own complex way. But to the party, depending on what, like, especially if it's a small scale guy, they don't give a shit. He's a guy. They're gonna beat his ass. So be ready. Like, you might be holding on to the super complex Shakespearean tragedy of how this collection of hit points, AC, and a couple sneaky spells is a very complex guy. But sometimes, like, I'm gonna set that aside because this encounter right now isn't about that, and I'm gonna give him a goofy little German voice. I'm gonna give him a fun little voice, and like that's what the party remembers. Like, oh, I kind of like this guy. We had an encounter where there's like one guy there who's like, there's like a pair of twins that were gonna fight, and like they're like talking shit at the arena, and one of them is like, I'm gonna like make milk out of your bones and all Like, I'm gonna just crunch you into a cube so I can remake you. And then the other guys are like, we're happy to be here. We're sponsored by this company. Kids stay in school. You know, just like, cause like these guys don't fucking matter. They're there to get killed by the party. That's why they're there to be an interesting encounter. These guys aren't coming back. Just make them fun.
Yep.
So, but I had an idea of like, oh, these guys are gonna be like such a weird, interesting combo of like, fuck it. Like, I'll shelf that for later. I can bring that up later. They're fun. This is gonna be a fun encounter of two different people.
Yeah, dude. And I think that's a really important thing too, because if you're always serious and you're always making grim dark bosses and you're always just like, then it's like, then that effect will wear off. You know, if it's always just something like that, then that effect, then like they're like, bro, listen. William is no different than Billiam, because Billiam was just evil fucking dick and we killed him, and now you're like him, let's just kick your ass too. But like notorious villains like Handsome Jack, dude. Like Handsome Jack is such a good villain, dude, in Borderlands 2, because it's just like his personality is just like, it's like you don't want to like him, but he's hilarious and you're just like confused. It's like, oh,
magnificent just ass.
Yeah.
Just a bastard through and through. Actually, I did think of Handsome Jack just because, again, I have the unique position of playing a sci-fi campaign, so this is a little bit easier, but you absolutely could do it in D&D too. There's no reason, especially if there's a lot of magic involved, why your big bad evil guy, once being revealed to be the big bad evil guy, can't constantly talk shit to the party through magical safe means. Can't just constantly just leave reminders of just like, haha, fuck you. Like, you'll be like, in Handsome Jack, you know, there's plenty of times where he's just talking shit, and it's really fun and goofy, which is very kind of, again, you don't want to always have the same tone. He's very fun and goofy, and then he blows up Bloodweed randomly, just fucking explodes the main character, like one of the main characters from the first game's like pet, kills him, and you know all this like, and it has a lot more impact because he's talking shit the whole time. You're used to him talking shit, and then like this one has consequences,
right?
You know, so depending again on the personality of the character you're using, on the means of either magic or in a sci-fi campaign, the technology and all this stuff, by all means let him talk shit. That's fun.
100%. Yeah, agreed. I mean, and
I do wish, man, I do wish that there's so many examples I want to give you that I absolutely cannot.
Damn.
But in a period of time, I will be able.
For Accent Run, huh?
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, all right. We'll have to save.
We're in a melting pot of just dicks.
Hey,
which
yo.
Sounds gay. It does sound like a Turkish sauna. But no, just and maybe we'll talk about it later. I think there's times as a DM where you're either building story or you're enjoying story. And I feel like in Axum Run right now, I'm building a lot of story. I'm introducing a lot of things, tropes, ideas, and stuff that goes along. So I eventually can knock down those dominoes and get payoffs for those.
Oh yeah.
Like for the party, for the people. So I'm in quite a large series of small little building phases right now. So we get to talk about them because they're all still happening.
Well, and that's even a cool. Like, you're bringing up such good points too to build upon this, because like you were saying, you have to build things up. Building up your boss, your BBEG, is also super important. You know, because not every single boss that you introduce will be immediately relevant to the story, like at that time. You know, it could be a culmination of things, or you know, things that happen like consistently, or like breadcrumbs that are left that they're like, who is this? And then like you find out, right? I think that's also a big thing, is, you know, building them up, making them, you know, it's interesting because it's like your party, like, you know, will obviously invest a lot into like people they like, but it's also like to get your players to invest in like the bad guys too, in terms of like an emotional investment of like wanting to hunt them down, to kill them, to capture them, whatever it is. That's also super important. So just like you would be building up important characters and building up important settings and building up, like having your boss be just as built up and fleshed out is equally as important. So
yeah. Again, that could be Shakespearean drama. It could be all this Machiavellian just changes, and he's sending false armies this way to draw forces this way to really just be able to move accounts here and there. So he's just trying to get personal will from the kingdom. Or it could be the party is actively marching towards the mountain, where from session 1 they see a big ass dragon on it, and they know by the time they get there, they're gonna be a higher level. And they're gonna fight that big dragon.
Yeah,
like it could be either one of those things, but like let them know about it and see it. You know, let them see what they're going towards. To a degree, you know, unless like the big bad evil guy just kind of just like, Steve? And then Steve the Baker rips off his mask and he's been a skeleton the whole time and stabs you in the head.
Bro.
There's like a long sword just.
Nah, Boblin, dude, just gets smoked immediately. They boom, immediate emotional draw, dude. Immediate emotional draw.
Yeah.
But I think there's places and times for that, man. You can literally introduce a BBEG the session before, and next thing you know, they're fighting them, or you can have it a 45 session build up, and you can have it. That's why I love about D&D, man. It's always, you can always build upon it, and you can have multiple throughout the game, like we mentioned. Doesn't have to be one person. You can literally have, hey, this is it for this arc. You killed them, good job. You do a couple side quests. You know, you get that connecting point, the connecting plot points, and then now here's another guy. And that's where it's like, that's where like you were kind of mentioning, you don't have to invest everything into one evil guy. You can invest, you know, you could have like, oh, right now I kind of want to be dark and broody, and then the next person's gonna be fucking weird and quirky and whatever it is. So.
And another thing is, I kind of always plan. It's easy to have 4 party members right now, a 5th being you.
Yeah.
Especially because I had a couple people come in and out of the game like guests. But long-term players almost always have their own associated big bad evil guy in my mind that the party will fight together on the behalf of that party member. Mm-hmm. You know, like somewhere in the story, and those kind of like they're not always like. Sometimes in the backstory, it's very clear who it is. And sometimes it's not. It's like you have this idea of something based off themes and based off things that the characters talked about, and that changes until you kind of introduce it. But like there's no like just from that, that's 5 big bad evil guys. Then like there's a main overarching one from the story that maybe isn't that one. Then you go to a new location and there's a guy like let's go kill the Swamp King. And the Swamp King's just he's a piece of work, and it's a more fun type of encounter than the broody shit you've been doing. You know, have a lot of them, and the ones that don't work, fucking let the party beat their ass. You know, let the party kill them, and you know, just you know, rinse and repeat. Just let the party delete them and get the catharsis of killing the annoying dude, and introduce a different type of annoying dude.
Yeah, and on top of that as well. Just also not being super attached. Obviously, as DMs, you're always going to be attached to everything you make because that's just the art. That's just the way it works. You know, you're building this. It's like, you know, you're creating something, and then you're obviously your players and everything. Everyone's like partaking, right? And so, like what Connor was kind of already saying, it's like sometimes, you know, if your party just smokes them out like just super quick, and it wasn't necessarily the fight that you intended, you just got to be like, okay, that is what it is, right? Right. But also, it's important for you to have fun too. Like that's why, like when it comes to bosses, and we'll talk about it a little bit here shortly. But it's like making a boss worthy of a drawn out fight. That way, you're having fun too. You know, making sure that you're kind of analyzing the party and figuring out what this person would be doing to prepare, and then bringing that in because it's fun for you to be able to kick some ass too with your bosses.
Yeah, there's nothing better than the party being super confident, and then somebody just goes and just like. Beats the fuck out of the paladin, and like they haven't seen anybody do more than 15 damage yet, and this guy does 35.
Yeah.
You know, and the party has to go like, oh fuck.
Yeah, exactly. They're like the shock.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like their eyes are wide, and you're like, and you're like secretly, you're like, oh no, and behind the DM screen, you're like,
yeah. No, I let them see it.
Or both, yeah, dude. Or you push over the DM screen. There's plenty of times
that it's like, ha, got you. Then I'll go, fuck, I'm about to kill them all. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Also, that's important. And then one kind of other thing as well is, as a players, also be cognizant as to like, you know, don't be that asshole who's like, you know, the DM's trying to monologue or bring some relevant shit up or have some emotional tie-ins at the end, like right before you fight, and you're just like, I cast fireball. And like 4 seconds into them talking, and you're just like, come on, like I understand, and I like there's certain things, but it's also like maybe be tactful about it, right? Maybe like real quick, be like, hey, could I have been doing, because like. As DMs and as players, you know, you kind of like, as you play your game, you're kind of retconning stuff pretty, you know, I would say pretty consistently in terms of like combat especially. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. Can I do this? There's nothing that says like they can't get their whole speech out and then be like, once like the DM's done talking or like explaining this stuff, you be like, hey, by the way, like while they were doing that, can I do this?
Right.
Also, just give it to the DM sometimes, you know, like sometimes, yes. I mean, you might have something to say, and for sure, but I think that like sometimes you know you're juggling so many different things, and like the DM, like I've done it before, where it's like you want to like talk and then build up and then do something that kind of all culminates together and makes like a cool moment as like a DM playing this villain. And I feel like you know players will be like, oh, but I wasn't doing it, like they want to do like all these different things, but it's also like as a player sometimes just be like, okay, like it is what it is, you know, you can't. There isn't always agency all the time because the DM's also trying to have a good time.
Yeah, I would say there's two things that I have not done this, but I have intended to do, as I have a lot of big, bad, evil bastards.
Yeah.
That I want to introduce. For one, be like, hey, I'm gonna monologue for a minute. Tell me after what actions you would have liked to have been taken while he's doing
Yeah, preface it.
You know, because I could understand the rogue being like, hey, while he's talking, I want to sneak around behind, I want to stay hidden and get a bit more advantageous position. The wizard maybe wants to start preparing the spell or something like that. I understand that fully, because the guy's probably talking, getting his own stuff ready. Why can't they? At the same time, I do have it set up on at least 2 of the bosses I have. Which is something I think we'll get into with mechanics. Is mechanically I have something set up as a failsafe. If the party attempts to do something in the middle of the monologue, it's a DC, but they're gonna get fucked up so bad. Like,
that's
like,
a way to do it too.
Like, there's nothing cooler, because what's happening, like, to get to like the story thing of it is, you as a DM are trying to have a moment, and like there's something cool about like taking the bad guy's moment and like shining as a hero. Like, the
Right.
rogue jumps up from behind and like stabs the evil villain to start the combat. Like, oh, that's super. That is admittedly cool. You know what is cool? You have to pass a DC 20 wisdom save, and when you fail it, he grabs you by the neck and slams you on the ground and continues monologuing as you're prone. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
And if you have it built into the monologue where it gets to punctuate his point, so good.
Yeah.
It would have been just fine if he didn't try it, but you kind of knew we were to try it. And also, as the DM, if that's the failsafe you're relying on, make the DC fair and be accepting of the fact that dice hate you sometimes. It's like DC 20 and 24? Oh, 20? Yeah, I fucking... You feel the DM begging you to not do this, and then you go there and do it, you know?
You're like, bro, please, you really want to do this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, uh-huh. You're like, damn. But I think that's just a good note to have. Dude, give and take a little bit, right? Yes, sometimes it's cool for the player to just randomly come, stab in the back while they're doing that. Other times, just it's all situation dependent, of course, but...
Also, the monologue can continue in combat. He has turns.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Speaking of combat...
Berkey, your baby.
Dude,
found it. We found the segue.
I was gonna say, is there anything else? We can loop back. We can loop back to it. Also,
totally fine.
Also, Sap, if you're still here hanging out, hey, feel free to jump in at any point. It's tell of any personal experiences of BBEGs. Happy to have you here.
The biggest, baddest evil.
The BBEB, big bad evil bastard. Okay. So we can preface this. You even were mentioning it, basically. You already were saying something. So setting up boss battles. I know in a previous episode, we had talked about kind of layer encounters, and we can still discuss that a little bit if needs be. But I'm talking about like setting up a boss battle for the boss, and what is their kind of what are they doing, and then what do they have at their disposal. So, like, kind of just talk me through some of your examples if you have some, and also, like, kind of, like, what do you think about when you're doing a boss battle, like, when you're setting that up?
Right. For what I like fights that aren't, like, especially, a lot of times with bosses, I intend to have combat with them. The players might fight them a couple of times. Might fight them once or twice before getting an opportunity to actually finish them off.
Yeah.
So, in the preliminary fights, like, there's nothing wrong in having the main fight in the throne room of the Grand Regent as the city burns around you, and it's a culmination of some grand adventure. There's also nothing wrong with having a fight on the next of a forest road where you get ambushed or he gets ambushed, or whatever the case. Just as long as you make the encounter there's kind of two things. Especially if you want the boss to, like, be able to punctuate how strong he is. Skew the encounter a little bit in his favor, or, like, depending on what's happening, skew it more specifically against the party's favor. Like, if there's a lot of ranged people there and your boss is quite melee focused, maybe have an encounter where they are challenged in that way. There's not a lot of cover, there's a lot of flat ground. They have to create situations either with magic or with creative tools to kind of shore those up. Also, you're not going to just murder players. You're not trying to make an encounter, just go through and like, haha, wizard, can't do scrap.
You have how many hit points? 7? Yeah, you just took 48 points of damage. And
yeah. How many hit points do you have? Oh, that many? You hear him roll again.
But yeah, I think that's a good point too. And just slightly going back to BBGs, having them, they can show up and directly confront the party, and you can have those build up encounters. And I think, yeah, depending on kind of the narrative and the story you're kind of setting up, having a battle be slightly skewed, in one way or the other too. I think it's always kind of cool to give your your players and party opportunities to get a one-up on the boss. Maybe they did something or they found somebody and they did this other thing to then give them a leg up in a battle. I think that's a cool way thing you can do too. Or vice versa. They didn't do something, therefore now they're at a detriment during a battle.
Absolutely, no, for sure. Like I like the idea of the party is escaping a lesser threat. Like, oh, we're helping out the rebels. We're gonna burn a stockpile and make our getaway across the kind of the hidden bridge that no one really knows about. Ha ha ha, getting away, and then oh fuck, they look up. There's the Emperor's main enforcer. You guys are level 5. He's level 20, and he's like it's now a run type situation.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are just not prepared for this. It's like a trope I kind of like in popular. Like some Star Wars media that's come out recently, aside from some notable bad ones. Vader shows up and no one's like, "Yay! Like let's stick it to the man." It's like fucking run.
Yeah.
We need to leave now. Like
right, because of the precedent that he has and the power. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like, there's no reason for one. Let the players be terrified. Like having the fear of like, oh, like my character could fully die right now. If something goes wrong, and also if you're prepared to do that to your players, be prepared to kill one of them if they try something. Like if you're gonna bluff, cut them open.
No, I think that's important. I think that to give them that kind of shock, and I think in a way it is like how you're setting up a boss battle in the future for the actual like final fight, or the actual battle between where one side dies. I think is also important to. Oh, good, I lost it.
Oh, good, you lost it.
Fuck. But on the initial prelim kind of fight, they're getting an understanding as to the skill set, and therefore now the party can go in kind of prepared or have that understanding. Absolutely. And then so like for how when I think of setting up boss fights as well, it's like what would the biggest things I consider is like what would they realistically have at their disposal? What would they be doing to be prepared for this instance? Like whether it's magical items or it's like additional ads, like you were kind of mentioning, where it's like, hey, this person's a martial person, a martial kind of based individual. He has a spellcaster accomplice, or he has maybe he's a martial and then his buddies are also martials, but there's 7 of them, so it makes it a little bit more of a bridging that gap of range that the party might utilize, things like that.
What I've done before, and it's how I balance an encounter like that, especially because ads, we love them, they're fun. For one, the party gets action economy for one is a huge thing in 5e,
yes.
Which is the system we technically both use. So skewing it so the party is not fully just dogpiling the boss is important, but also you guys could be hammering away at somebody with high AC, a lot of hit points, and it's not feeling very satisfying. But if you mulch through 5 or 6 guys to get there, you're dropping people off the battlefield, you're getting kills, you're doing stuff, and it is more satisfying. As far as the melee kind of ranged bit, I do have this thing that I've been doing. It's kind of more of like an experiment from my end. It's like, oh, I have a lot of range guys in this encounter. And instead of adding a couple melee guys, I'm gonna add one big fucking melee guy. Mm-hmm. Like he's not even really the boss; he just is like a very notable enforcer or addition. Or there's a bunch of melee guys, so they got like a ballista up top. Like that's the one thing of range they have. Yeah. Like they have one of them, but you cannot ignore it. So it just like adds this thing. It adds like another dimension of it. It's like it's a part of initiative beyond what the players are doing, where everybody's going to be paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. And it
so adding that, yeah.
Well, adding
the boss is more important.
Well, adding into like what they have available, exactly, because they're gonna do certain things, and I think it's also and kind of because we're kind of talking about like a confrontation with another a human or like another person, like another humanoid kind of person. Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to also like kind of hit also having a monstrosity or something like that. I think that's having a monstrosity or a large creature or something that's of magnitude. I think that's where you can kind of get a lot more into layer actions. I think it's pretty unique if you were to have layer actions with like a humanoid based BBEG. I think that you can get kind of creative with that, because you can also make it so that the 6 martial dudes, or like his 6 like companions, aren't even really like like ads. They're like layer actions that they're doing. So they're doing something. Like they're maybe they're shooting the ballista, like you're saying on initiative count 20. The layer action is the ballista until they destroy it. But layer actions is where you can really kind of lift up the like the monsters in the caves and the layers and the terrain.
Yes, and I think just going through having say multiple encounters with the big bad evil guy, that third encounter at the lair action is just a fun way to mix up the combat. Maybe by the second time they fight him, they get a good idea of what this guy could do. Now they're fighting in the lair, and they're just like, we know what he could do, but was that lava? Like, shit. What? This is unnecessarily dramatic. But no, but I think on the point of monsters though, I think something that people kind of avoid, which I am starting to pay a lot of attention to. When you get to monsters, when you get to a high enough level of play, find some just fucked up like additions to do. Like maybe your monster, like benefits highly from somebody who fails a stealth check or a strength check. So have monsters that complement that and like either like impose disadvantage on the party members. And make it and how you describe it, maybe make it make sense. Like maybe they're throwing like bolas out to kind of like entangle the parties. They're not going to pass a dex save when the dragon comes in with its breath attack.
Yeah.
You know, like something like that. Like something that's like, oh, that's like really fucked up. Because but the party will appreciate like you not avoiding something, and like the party, like you're the enemy to the party. If you're the DM, there's a certain level of understanding when it comes to combat. They are trying to defeat you, and you're trying your best not to defeat them.
Right.
And I feel like just taking another level of hand-holding off, treating the monsters as intelligent, especially when it comes to dragons. And maybe what they're fighting is a Tarrasque, which has like intelligence of like 4 or something like that. Maybe it is dumb as hell.
I don't know the actual.
I know it's really stupid. If I recall, a Tarrasque is, I want to say 4 or 5, because I think they are so dumb that I think mind flayers can barely detect them.
Tarrasque intelligence, bro. I have to know. I thought they were more intelligent than that. Maybe not. Maybe I'm 3. Yep. That shit's up.
Oh, so yes, mind flayers cannot detect them. They detect anything with an intelligence of 4 or higher.
Dude, it's just a semi-truck that's fucking stupid as shit, just running everything.
Yeah, no, it's like pretty much anybody who drives a Dodge Ram.
Oh,
that's what a Tarrasque is.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, just right into whatever, dude. Into whatever.
But yeah, like even then, like the Tarrasque maybe is the big bad evil guy, but maybe the brains behind it is like, say, like a group of bandits or druids that are kind of operating around it. So that the main thing you're fighting is the Tarrasque, but it's almost like being steered by whatever the ads end up being.
Yes.
You know.
And I'm also always a fan too as a player. It's like, and then you don't now. Disclosure, you don't need to make every combat deadly as a DM. I know Connor likes to go against the norm. He loves doing that shit. But you don't need to make every combat encounter deadly.
That 20 to guy in the face with rollerblades the other day. It was fucking amazing.
In real life?
I wish.
No,
shit. In Axum Run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that sounded just oddly specific, so I thought you were delving into your life. I was like, hold on, you're that rollerblade
just at
dude?
work, I'm like, I just roll a die. Nat 20.
God, his ass.
Dumbass.
Stupid idiot. No, but I will say, when the party has to, like, and this is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like you're making the boss a formidable foe. Make the party have to earn it, you know? Make the party have to be strategic. That's the thing I like about D&D is, like, I don't like it when I'm just getting curb stomped. Like, for instance, in Baldur's Gate, bro. Baldur's Gate, shit can get real stupid real quick in combat.
Monks? Are you fighting monks yet?
Dude, I literally started a new game, have not even got out of Act 1. Like, no, there was the one that I was telling you about, but then, like, my computer was, like, catching on fire, so I was like, I need my laptop not to burn up, so I need to, like, stop playing this game. But I want to continue. But I think having a boss that's a difficult fight where you have to use all your resources and, you know, to make it happen, you know? And a few lucky dice rolls, you know, to come out on top, I think is also really enjoyable. Just from a standpoint as a player.
You want to make it dramatic. You want to make it so they don't walk into the bad guy's house like the Django Unchained and just start blasting everybody.
Yeah.
Even though it's a good movie.
100%.
But no, your job isn't to walk in there and just fucking pop, we won. It's like, I'm gonna walk in there, swing. My swing doesn't connect. I get fucking shoulder checked in the head. and I'm like, oh fuck, and there's 10 of them, like, oh god, and shit, fireball me! Like, you want them to make those desperate plays. You want them to like reach into their back pocket, like half the time I feel like party members remember they have an arcane relic you gave them 40 sessions ago that actually is like so situational the DM didn't expect it. Is because they're kind of getting their ass kicked a little bit.
They start looking at
they're going through notes.
They're looking at their entire character sheet, dude. They're checking everything, bro. They're like, what do I have? Ooh, there's a bug in my office.
They're like in like a staircase, and they're just like this like massive oozing slime just like coming down, melting everything. It's like, yeah, I have this bottle of fucking freezes a damn slime immediately where it's at and it shatters. Would that be helpful right now? Like, god damn it. Yeah, no, it kind of would. I can't miss. He's right up there. I'm just kind of going to leave it on the stair and go down 2 more flights. He's going to automatically hit it. It's like, you fuck. Yeah, shithead. Yeah, I guess that's going to work.
Hell yeah. Exactly. Dude, there was a little gnat trying to piece up my shit. I had to piece him up.
Oh.
No, but exactly. 100%. Making them use all their resources, or, you know, having them build, you know, it's because, like, it's also kind of like lackluster when, like, you know, you go into, you know, you prepped as a party all these different things, and then you go into the fight and you use like a 30 or stuff, and you're like, oh, that was kind of cheeks, bro, easy peasy, like no issues.
Well, man, I'm writing down the oozum counter right now because it does sound kind of fucking cool.
Oh hell yeah!
You guys gotta make sure I give nobody anti-ooze potions.
Anti-ooze. Is that the bug that I just killed? Oh, it was. Ew.
Did it ooze?
Dude, it didn't ooze, not yet. Hold on, I'm gonna go throw this creepy thing away. Disgusting.
Oh god, he ooze. Disgusting!
Disgusting! Okay, now that we kind of, you know, talked about, just like kind of setting it up. Also, real quick, one more thing. Setting up a boss fight. Something also a very beneficial thing, and I like to do this actually a lot. I think it makes it a little bit more interesting, and it kind of makes your party have to think and not just be like, you know, ballistic as fuck with all their abilities. Weaning them down before a boss fight.
Yes.
Absolutely yes. Them being like, yo, I know that this boss is 17 doors down in this motel, but I also know that there's 14 different groups of people I have to fight because he's got a lot of homies. Yeah. And so them having
the first door, it's a family of 5. You're like, ah!
Yep. And you're
I'm
like,
sorry.
Fireball! Anyway. But that's the kind of stuff that you need to be. Actually, hold on. Let me hold on. Let's see how much damage I do. I'm gonna do the fireball.
Oh no.
Fireball. Let's see what this family of 5 just took. Only 10 damage, dude. Only 2 of them died. That's good.
Fireball's gonna hit them all, so they're actually all dead.
No. The father and the oldest son, dude. They took all that damage for their family members. That's good. Anyway.
Okay.
So.
I'll let you live in your reality. That's okay.
Dude, hey, sometimes...
In mine, they're all dead.
There's just 2 parallel realities. But yes, okay. Next kind of delving into a little bit deeper is stats.
Yes.
And you mentioned briefly action economy. And I think just right off the rip, boss's stats. I'm actually gonna pull up some examples for the stream because I have a couple of boss like stats written down we can look at. Do you have the stream pulled up, Connor? You could probably.
I do.
Okay, then I can show that. But before I do that, I think. For me personally, I like to go through everything. I basically, I don't know how you do it, Connor, and you can speak to it, but I basically just make a character sheet for my boss. I give them all the stats. I give them, I even give them a proficiency bonus. I give them skills. I give them wisdom saving, or I give them, saving throws, resistance. Like, I go through all the boxes to be like, what would they have? What would they, you know, and go through it. Because yes, a fucking animal handling check might not necessarily matter, or if they have proficiency in animal handling, it might not necessarily matter ever. But I like to do that because for me, it gets me into the mindset and it kind of fleshes them out as a character, as a person, as a creature, whatever it is. I like to do all of it because then I can kind of get into their head a little bit more. And if for whatever reason it comes up, it's already there.
Just because of the nature of how my bosses work, which means I will make a boss that's really cool and interesting, and then he will literally get one shot, because the system I'm in is fucking insane, and I'm slowly working. I'm now at a place where yes, I have made bosses with character sheets, but what I have done, especially what's a little bit easier, is I'll take monster stats. There's plenty of humanoid monster stats, and add and adapt to those.
Yeah,
The framework, and by the time I'm done playing with them, completely different stats. But because monster stats, sometimes they do have proficiencies and things like that. Like the bread and butter of what that creature or character does is already baked in there. But yeah, then just kind of go from there, and then but no, I think now, especially when you have the humanoid entities, there's nothing wrong, especially if it's going to be a frequent flyer in your campaigns. It's going to be part of the rogues gallery. It's gonna have like that fully fleshed out, especially just as a DM. You just open them up. There's quick notes essentially for it. Like, by the way, this is the one whose mom was named Susan. So when the bard made that line, double damage because of how good that fucking burn was.
Yeah, dude, that vicious mockery was sick, dude.
That vicious mockery when he calls your mom by name.
Bro. Holy shit. That's wild.
Why is it credible?
But to highlight again on action economy, the biggest thing, especially if you have a creature, like you were saying, you take the stats of a creature maybe, and like because it's very similar, or you like some of the mechanics of that. I would just say like what you should definitely do is if it's a solo entity, just give it like 4 actions or give it legendary actions. Depending on kind of the fight you want to have, I really enjoy legendary actions because it kind of makes it seem like the fight's a little bit more like back and forth. Whereas I've also done it where like it's the boss or the BBEG will just have like multi-attack of 4 attacks, and he just unleashes a torrent of attacks, and it like just chops the party down a level. But then they have their whole iteration to kind of get back up. So it kind of depends on the combat you want to have.
I also think that, and also one thing I've played with is give them 2 reactions. Just adding the extra reaction ability there.
Okay.
That can be huge. Again, to make the fight feel more fluid. Especially so there's an ability that Logan's character in Axe and Run Taldar uses a lot, where he'll use his reaction that when another enemy makes a weapon attack at him, he first gets to make his own attack, and if he hits them, regardless of damage, they have disadvantage on their attack. And it's like, that's a fucking broken ability that I hate, so my bosses get it now.
There you go.
So, like, maybe you have a character that has multi-attack, does 2 attacks on this guy, intentionally steps out in the middle of his combat, somebody makes an opportunity attack, and he uses that to use his reaction. Like, say you have like this very dramatic back and forth, like, he's using his reaction to impose disadvantage on you to keep moving, attack this guy, come back, now that you have disadvantage, hit you again.
Yeah.
There's just a whole fluid thing. Or the guy has a gun.
Homie's got the chopper, bro.
Sometimes that is weirdly a lot more fun. It's just like, my guy's power is minigun.
Just lets it rip, dude. Well, but reactions I really enjoy too. Reactions are really cool. That's why I'm trying to expand the list of reactions. We actually have an episode of Tavernside Talks. If you ever want to look at it, it's like one of the, I think it's a dead first episode we did. Actions, bonus actions, reactions, and kind of how we've expanded upon that. You can check that out as well.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it might be the very first.
Yep. Okay, so speaking of stats, real quick, I have one pulled up. I really mentioned it earlier. Connor's talking about paladin. His name was Dunlin, the fallen angel. He was a death knight because he was a paladin who had gone. He was actually, so some context, he was a paladin in the order that the party then teamed up with to then hunt down this Draculich, and this dude had was a paladin of that order. Fell from his oath and fell from the order, and then was assisting this Draculich as like an agent, basically. So they had to go. They had to go to the city. They went into his keep and were like, "What's up, mother?" And they had to piece him up. But they actually had multiple interactions with him before, and I was going to talk about this a little bit earlier. But talking about like just like key personality things and trying to have him like be remembered.
Yes.
It's always, this dude was just a brash, like, cocky motherfucker, dude. And, like, I didn't really even realize it until a little bit later. But, dude, my party, dude, they despised him, dude. Everybody was like, bro, that dude's a prick, cocky piece of shit. I want to kick his ass. And so it's just cool. Like, where sometimes, like, you might not necessarily think you're doing something, or, like, it doesn't stick with the party because it's not, like, a very, like you're just doing something and they react to it. But they might stick with them. So, it's just... staying true to that's always, and just, having that key personality can, make them more memorable.
And another thing, because you go back and forth between characters, something I started doing, because I'll speak about a character in a certain way, and like between sessions, it's hard to remember, especially if it's like a bartender. Big Bad Evil
Yeah.
Guy should be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have the character's name, what they do, then like 1 or 2, 3 descriptive words, like stupid, cocky, goofy. Perfect. Like that's the bartender. Yeah, that's Bracken. You know, like this is that. You know what they say? Ah, Sean Gay, and it's like, what's that even? I feel like you're insulting me. It's like, pour it up. You know, like then you got that character. It's easier to
pour it up.
With.
Pour the fuck up, my guy. No, yeah, exactly. And like for me, I don't know why, but like if I remember like physical appearance, that also helps me remember personality too. So I'll like do a mixture. I'll do like a one personality thing, couple physical characteristics, and then I'm like, okay, I remember who they were. You can get back into it. So.
Yes, that's good. I do know myself. I need to be better at just like physical descriptors of random folk.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes like the guy looks pretty cool. They're like, we should shoot him right now. If you're describing him, we should shoot him. Like you're probably right.
Hey, pour him up.
Pour him up.
No, let it rip. But just to kind of like give a quick like outline for the audience too, to kind of show you what I do that might be a helpful tool for you guys. I don't do like a full so I go through like a character sheet, I should say, like in quotes, right? But I have this template that I do. So I have name, what they are, some medium undead, lawful evil, armor class, obviously 21, he had plate, shield, ring of protection. Kind of going back to stats, right? If something they lack something, you could definitely up that up, give them a little bit of an ante, up that ante a little bit with some magical items. So he had a ring of protection, gave him even a higher AC, hit points, speed, the strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, saving throws. I had those listed out. I didn't actually have him have any skills, but sometimes I'll do that, sometimes I won't. Immunities, all the different things, right? Conditions, senses, languages, challenge. We've mentioned before with monsters, it's also a lot of fun to do like vulnerabilities or immunities, immunities and resistances, but it's also a lot of fun to do vulnerabilities. So that's something you can kind of tie in too. You have a very, very strong creature, but if you could give them a vulnerability, bro, and then like they discover that, then it could turn a very almost impossible encounter to a more fun strategic encounter. So that's something you can do too.
Something I would say on vulnerability, something I've started doing, is vulnerabilities does not always mean this will do more damage. Sometimes the vulnerability, depending on what you're doing, maybe it drops the AC if the attack it is involving, whatever it is. That's something I've been playing with, is a lot of fun. And we can get into that when we do encounters a little bit into that part, as far as fluctuating AC in fights, or fluctuate that can be, as long as you telegraph it well, could be a lot of fun and very rewarding for a party depending on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if the vulnerability could, classic, like he's weak to fire. The fire did 14 instead of 7. Sometimes like, he's weak to fire. It's like, fuck, fire? Shit. His AC drops by 3 if you hit him with fire.
Yeah, exactly. And you can either explain that like narratively, like because he's panicked and less aware, or it's burning through armor, or whatever it is. Yeah. Or you could even,
it's a druid with wood and armor, and you're like, all right, dipshit.
Yeah, get smoked, nerd.
Hit him with a torch.
Turn them into a bonfire, dude.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, those are also really cool things too, and just having that kind of dynamic encounter. Where you make a lot of your money, I feel like, with bosses is abilities and traits, right? So for Dunlin, I had magic resistance to kind of give him that up. The Windwalkers was another magical item I just had written out here. He was martial undead. He had a creature of his choice within 60 feet of it, had advantage of saving throws against features that turn undead, etc., etc. He had spells, so he was pretty versatile in that. But just like I was just saying, like making like a unique couple things, right? And I'm gonna show another one too, because this one was like many years ago, and I've become a little bit more in depth and more intricate with my bosses. But this one I enjoyed, and what's crazy about this fight was that this actually happened. Like, and I'm going to read the stipulations, and it was like quite the amount of walls that the party had to get through, and it still ended up happening, and it was crazy. So for brutal critical, if Dunlin rolls a 19 or 20 on an attack with Oath Reaver, the hooked end of the blade sinks into the creature, at which point he retracts the blade, using the circular bladed end to deeply lacerate the creature on the withdrawal. The creature takes an additional 2d6 slashing damage with the potential of dismembering. So you already have to roll 19 and 20 to crit, right? And then if a critical hit drops the creature to 0 hit points, so there's another stipulation, Roll a d20. On a 15 or higher, so a third stipulation, Dunlin wraps the hooked blade around the back of the creature's head and severs the head from the body in a single clean pull. So
did a party member get decapitated?
Bro, so he had this blade that was like this long blade, and at the end it literally was like almost like a bill hook, like where it hooked. Bro, so it wasn't a party member. It was so the campaign started out with one DM, and then like after a couple episodes I started DMing, but I made a character named Orok, which is a Goliath. He stayed with the party the entire game, so I was basically DMing and PCing the entire campaign, which is actually a lot of fun. If you've never tried that, it can be kind of interesting depending on what what you want to do. Anyway, that happened to him. So my own PC, dude,
he decapitated yourself.
Dude, I literally decapitated, bro. Like tears in my eyes.
The drama.
Dude, tears in my eyes. I'm like, oh shit, it knocked him to 0. Well, I mean, it's a 15 or higher, or whatever. I rolled it. It was like an 18. I was like. And so I'm like having to like choke back. I'm like, bro, okay, so this is what happens. Bro, he got decapitated. Dude, my party members were like, bro, they were wrecked, dude. This shit was crazy, dude. They were so upset. But it made for a crazy cinematic, occurrence, right? And it made the combat. It had that weight to it. It drew out, the additional kind of weight to the situation. And
absolutely, yeah. I mean. That's why you add those things. Like, man, it'd be really cool if he did this. But here's like a condition that has to clear, and to make it fair, there is a role that has to be met.
Yeah.
Because like, I've had a lot of those like poison pills, more or less, in encounters. It's like, yeah, if they like fail this stealth check and get grappled, and then he succeeds on an attack while they're grappled, something really fucked up's gonna happen. But it never happens. But one day when it does, you decapitate your own fucking character.
Yeah, dude, it's good, dude. Hey, forever remember that, man. Forever remember that. And then I had Shield Bash where he could use his shield, and then reactions like you were mentioning. He had Parry. I really like Parry. Parry's
really good.
It's almost like a martial version of a shield, and I think it's awesome. I think it kind of helps bring that longevity out, and also if you describe it during the battle, it can make the battle seem very intense with like him blocking and deflecting.
Yes, it keeps it from being 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds. It becomes a more fluid affair. Do give me one moment. I do have to answer.
Yeah, you're good, bro. And then additionally, what I'll do for like writing out my notes and whatnot, at the bottom, I'll even like write descriptions and details, and then I'll even do like the loot that he had on him or what he was wearing, or whatever the creature was. So, that's one of them. That was Dunlin. And then I have another one that I'm gonna show. Let me go ahead and pull it up. This one's a little more recent. This one is actually in my. This actually is in the Frost Trail arc that we did. And I'm just gonna show a couple different things here. Where is it? Oh, it's actually up here. Daylight Defender. Alright. Cool. So similar to the other one, similar to Dunlin, I have the name, what they are, armor class, hit point, speed, all the normal stuff, resistances, damage immunities, conditions, etc. This one, the Daylight Defender actually had skills for this one, but then
he didn't.
Nah, he got pieced the fuck up by the party, dude. Hey, Fairy Fire, dude, watch out, man. Dude, that dropped on your homie, dude. You're just smoked. But no,
the satisfaction I got from one knowing, like he was gonna cast Guiding Bolt, a first level spell. And I'm just like, just me as Veer is like, is it a spell?
Oh.
Whatever it is, counter spell. Like,
yeah.
You get nothing. Fuck you. Like, you get nothing.
Dude, I was like, dick.
Yeah, it was fucked up, man. Learning experience. Well, actually, how about this? Well, are you done going through it? I did just sit down.
Oh, no, you're good, though. Go ahead.
I guess as we go through this, what would you add to this character, to this creature? Like, in the same situation, in the same fight, what's an ability or trait you might add to this to kind of improve its chances in the fight, to like make it a more involved or dynamic fight? Hindsight being what it is.
I think, and that's actually an awesome question, because I feel like whenever you make a creature or you make a boss and you're like, oh, dude, what could I do differently? What could I add? Or, whatever it is. I will just like to say, like, for this fight with the Daylight Defender, unfortunately, I wouldn't change anything about his stat block. I, as a DM, just fucked up royally in terms of how I positioned him in the fight, and then how I went about just how I went about it. And obviously, because I backed him up and you guys just wailed on him, and you just beat the shit out of him, and you just broke him down to a point of yeah, to where he was just obsolete. I mean, because I already gave him magic resistance, so he had advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. I would like to say I actually roll with that. That's a big thing too. Is remember the things you give your creatures, dude. I will forget sometimes.
God.
Like I'll be down here on the page and be like looking at all his other stuff, and I'll forget that he had magic resistance, and I might have forgot that, and I might have saved my ass with that. Also, real quick side note, I also really enjoy doing like the full fleshed out stat block because it gives context and it gives like, you know, some depth to your characters. And like, yes, it can be a little bit extra work, but I love like writing everything out. I'm a very written out kind of DM where it's like I like to have as many notes as I can written out, or have as Connor. I know you're the exact opposite. Man, this man has one napkin for 17 sessions, dude, and it's just like it's like a 3D picture of a box, and then there's a couple words in it. And and he can rock.
You know what? We have a good ass time. That's what we have.
Yeah, so very different means of doing it. But I even had written out here powered down. The Daylight Defender will stop its termination order if the phrase order has been restored or spoken to the creature in Celestial. Like, would you guys have ever known that or done that? I would say no. But it's just one of those things where like that's a cool like that'd be a thing written into this creature anyway, into this entity. So I added it just because you can also reuse these kinds of things, and that might be relevant at a different time.
Right.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time here for the episode. I mainly wanted to bring up the Daylight Defender to come down here and kind of give an example of like how you can do it in terms of giving your character action economy. So this is actually the first time I've done this. Usually I'll just be like, hey, legendary actions, or I'll just give them like a multi-attack of like 4 different things, or like 3 or 4 attacks, and maybe split it up. But I actually gave the Daylight Defender bonus actions he could choose from. So he had 3 different bonus actions he could do. I'm not going to read through all of them. But yeah, essentially he had his multi-attack, so the Daylight Defender can either make 2 longsword attacks or a longsword attack and cast a guiding bolt. And then he had a bonus action of something else. And so that kind of almost made his action economy a little bit more used throughout the fight. And so he had his action, his bonus action, and then if a reaction came up for an opportunity attack, he could use that as well. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that though. The big capstone spell that he has is hold a monster, because in the fight we were having, it absolutely did not matter. There was no monsters present, but for the lore of the character he made, absolutely mattered.
Exactly. And
I like the Daylight Defender a lot.
Yeah, I'm hoping that at some point in time, this is a very like I could definitely fit this into like other instances, because this is kind of like it's like a guardian that like it's like a celestial like kind of design guardian of important things or whatever it is. So I could definitely reuse this one. It's really cool to like. That's what I like about also writing everything out and getting it a fully fleshed out thing, because you just don't know like when you might be able to use it again, and how, you know, having those detailed notes might just save you time later in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it is, like, I joke, I do write things down.
No, 100%.
No, I feel like the Daylight Defender is a really good example of just, like, making a creature, planning everything out, putting a lot of extra effort into it, and then the dice being what they are, and the party just firing on all cylinders, and just, like, whatever encounter you had in it falls apart. The closest thing I can get to that is when Todd asked me to kill his character, and I said, yes, absolutely, I'll do that. And then through a series of magnificent rolls and bullshit, not only did my super scary assassin that came out to specifically kill Todd fail at doing so, but the combat technically never left initiative 1. Because of the series of things that happened, like getting hit by a fucking orbital torpedo that specifically disabled him, and then like Todd getting like being able to bullshit his way into getting a sneak attack off, and then it came down like a quick draw of, because the guy just so you know, in Star Wars 5e, if I get hit by anything spaceship, the damage is multiplied by a factor of 10.
Yep.
And then he was also vulnerable to that damage type. So
he got deleted, but the rolls be that like that sometimes.
The rolls be that way. And yeah, it was satisfying. The party was excited. I made the character on Tailspire, who was supposed to come back many times. I have now used that character several times. on a battle map to be like, this guy's scary in combat, and look at him, he's really pretty. I designed him and I paid $8. So you're gonna look at him. You're gonna fucking look at him.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and by the way, this is not what the boss looks like, but I have to use this mini because I need to get my reps out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, just because I do have to wrap this up here, but I did want to just kind of note real quick that the build up, the fight, just like this culminating event, and I just want to kind of discuss real quick aftermath of these battles. I think the aftermath of a fight is equally, if not more important than the build up and the fight in some capacity, because it's like there has to be a payoff, there should be a payoff, and there should be a visual representation of what the party has done.
Yes. Well, for instance, like the immediate aftermath of you kill him, he's dead.
Right.
For one, the most grubby hand fucking thing is, what do we get?
Oh,
and
shit.
There should be something, it might be story related. Maybe it's the MacGuffin that the party needs to keep moving forward. Maybe it's a pretty powerful weapon they were just getting their ass beat with.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a treasure room, something like that. But also, like if this was, say, again, maybe it's a scheming guy. Maybe they take this guy down, and now the city they're in starts healing a little bit. They stop the death of this guy kind of stops a major campaign or war or something like that, and they get to see that being played out.
Yep.
Or it's a big ass monster that was ravaging the area, and now that's gone, and now they're safer.
Yeah. Or even, I was gonna say, or even it could be. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy too. Like those are all amazing examples, but I think it can also be subtle. If it's a backstory thing, like I would say maybe like I mean I'm a fan sometimes of kind of implying or maybe even describing how a player character will feel, or like implying something, because sometimes they might not be thinking of it, or just to kind of give them a little bit, maybe they can act it out where it's like, hey, like you have a sense of relief, or you can even be like segue like, hey, how does your character feel now that this is over?
Yeah.
And have them describe that. I think that doing those things, and maybe even just like reminding them or having day-to-day interactions with their party members, and just being like, oh, maybe their character had anxiety because of this boss for this long, and then maybe like you constantly kind of bring up like, yeah, like you've been sleeping really good. Maybe give them a little bit of a boon for that. They can be subtle too, but I think just making it matter and making it continue to matter, I think is very important as well.
Yeah, like I think especially the character, like if you tie it to a backstory thing, something that they can leave with that also might be physical, whether it's a small thing, maybe like they find something up from their home in the wreckage, or like something like a small memento that the character can take with them, and the player there can choose to make that important or not.
Yes.
To them is very is good. For everybody needs a loot, but sometimes like, oh, you were able to get something from this to take with you as like a signature of having completed this venture, to having put this to bed, is always, and it gives the players options, because as DMs we love all getting into playing, and sometimes we are blessed enough to have characters and players who are also interested in having an enjoyable narrative experience and role-playing experience, and sometimes they do want to hit shit with a sword, and what they get from the boss better be a sharpening stone to make the sword sharper to hit harder, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and I think you could spring. I think doing both helps satiate kind of, because there are different player types, right? Some people are more narrative and story, others might be more loot, and so I think having a couple different things, especially if it's a very difficult fight, a very difficult boss battle, a very difficult maybe like arc or something for the players, give them that reward. It doesn't always have to be items, it doesn't always have to be material things, but it can be, like I said, like a boon, or maybe it's influence, or maybe it's something they can cash in later down the road. But explaining that, and I think having your fight be worth something, and have that boss dying be worth something, because it also makes it so that way that they kind of live on, then like, because the party might name drop them, or maybe like when they're they might talk about the boss, and you kind of want that to be memorable, not only to pushing them to that ultimate fight, but also going forward they can also kind of look back on it and kind of just reminisce, or have learned something, or has progressed their characters in a positive manner.
Absolutely. One thing that kind of I just thought of now, which has never happened in any of my D&D campaigns, I doubt that it happened in any of your I doubt it happened to anybody who's viewing it, but the possibility of defeating the big bad in a non-lethal way.
Oh, yeah.
Like perhaps like the ish that like it could be a boss fight. It could be like it ends with you arresting him. It could end with like you banishing the creature. It could end with, you know, especially if it's like an incredibly powerful entity. Maybe like just a more permanent souped up version of banishment is what the whole campaigns have been about getting the materials for. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the absence of the threat, but also like, yeah, he's behind bars now, you know, or he's like, put away, or like you've shown his crimes to the world. So just having that, like, you did it, but also like I like the idea of like you did it, and maybe you did the morally right thing of not killing him.
Yeah.
But he's still there. Talking shit,
and
you know,
yeah, behind prison or the stocks. Yeah. But you could also use that to tie into something. Maybe he knows something and is connected to something later. I think non-lethal ways to resolve stuff is also very interesting, and it can make things very intricate and make very cool moments. Or maybe there's even redemption. Maybe it's like in the last moment or something, there's like a redemption piece, and your players for once ever hear them out and don't just murder them on the spot. You know, that's probably, you know, far and few between, maybe non-existent. But
just not in ways that made sense. They killed the main bad guy. There's like, who are you? Please. He's now aboard the player's ship. He's their chef.
Hell yeah. That's right.
Fucking whatever.
But I mean, also like for Dunlin, for the fallen paladin, he had a steward that was under like mind control, like, and I forget if I believe they knew about it. I think they heard that like that he was controlling him or something. But even having connections to the BBEG, maybe like you do end up killing them, but maybe having like different connections or maybe accomplices not necessarily be like, you know, killed either. Maybe there's a little bit like, you know, maybe he deserved to die, but maybe like his right hand man who was maybe just, you know, Stockholm syndrome or just like some crazy shit. You know, you can. That's what I think is so important about Aftermath of it, is you can make it more in depth. It doesn't always have to be kill. Okay, next thing, kill. Then okay, next thing. It's like make it more of a breathing, real kind of aftermath and kind of chronological events.
Absolutely, no, I fully agree with that, and I also really like the the option of not killing something. Also, what I like about D&D is the option of you kill somebody you need information from. Just got rolled up on.
Okay. No.
And he's back.
Okay.
I saw her rolling up on you.
Dude, was she like, oh shit? Did you see it? That's
she
funny.
wasn't doing like a whole walk. She was just walking up on you.
I wanted. Okay, yeah, that's funny. Okay, what are you gonna say though?
All I was gonna say is, you say you kill the character, and like as a DM, maybe they had secrets to the main bad guy that you find about in journals. It's like, but we need to kind of talk to him to get more. It's D&D. Go to hell and talk to him. You know, go find him.
Yeah.
You know. Cast Speak with Dead, use 5 questions and talk shit, then bring them back. You know, like
use 4 of them to talk shit.
Yeah, then the 5th one, it's just like, what should we know? It's just like, you know, but no, you can kill somebody. That doesn't mean their journey has to end, especially not in D&D.
Yep. I believe I'm total agreement with that, and that's where I think that. And that's where it can, like, the continuation of the story, right? I think the aftermath of these boss fights, it does propel, if you know, it does help propel and galvanize the story you're trying to tell, and just like continues to push it in the direction that you want it to go. And I think, I mean, it doesn't, and you know, as with anything, it doesn't always have to be a super crazy. It can be a boss fight. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be some super crazy relevant thing. It could be literally just, hey, we're killing this dragon for loot. That's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I would just, I think as with anything, a healthy blend of things for D&D is always important. You know, having things that are very narrative focused, having things that are very loot focused, and then blending them together, and just constantly having this kind of back and forth, just like we talked about with personalities for you know, NPCs, for bosses. It's like, just keep it unique and new. Doesn't mean you have to stop. You know, it's not like a, oh, bingo, dude, I did my fucking crazy maniacal dude. I can't do him ever again. It's just like, I think if you just keep it fresh, then you're constantly surprising your players, and it's constantly, you know, fun for the DM because you get to experiment with different things. It's fun for the players because they're experiencing different things. So it's just good.
Yeah. As a DM, do something that you find interesting and fun. it's not always about what like if you enjoy it, it'll show for the party as well.
Yeah.
Don't labor through something you think the party's gonna find interesting. Find the middle ground and enjoy yourself too.
Exactly.
Or don't. I'm not your dad.
Yeah, also true. If you just like, hey man, if you're just there and you hate being a DM,
Yeah.
but you do it for the homies, dude, we appreciate you. You are seen. Hey,
Yeah.
we need DMs out there. Appreciate you.
We need it. Yeah,
Also,
it is.
swindle the closest player to your left and be like, yo, I got this cool idea. Get them to fucking take the DM screen from you and then run.
Yeah. Then just run.
And then just get out of there.
Then play the most cancerous possible party member.
Yeah, monk. If you start with a monk class, dude, shadow monk, dude, and then just like be like the most busted race you could be, and with all the
When is that book releasing again? I
don't care, dude.
I don't even know anymore.
I'm writing my own book. I'm not, but I kind of want to.
I'm writing my own book. I'm not, but
but we should. But that is, of course, that's it. That's all the time we have. Another.
yeah, shit.
What? That is.
Yeah, just real. I've been doing the bathroom.
Oh yeah, boy, we did it. Hey, that's the way to end it right there.
Yeah, that's how we're supposed to do it. No, I've been doing the math wrong in my head. I added 30 minutes where there wasn't any. Also, my precarious balance for my mic is a lot narrower than it used to be, so my dramatic thumping, my tub thumping, as it were.
Tub thumping?
It's a song by Chumbawambas. You know it. You've heard it. Everybody's heard it.
All right, I probably would recognize it, but I don't know if I've
yeah.
indulged necessarily. Anyway, that's it for tonight. BBEGs and boss battles. There you go.
That's right. That's how we do it.
Yeah, it was fun. But that is all the time we have. We're back, thankfully, after a couple months. Should be good to go. Should be rolling through, just continue to be going on with content and pushing it out and having a good time here on the channel. We should be doing a ARC episode on Thursday. But obviously, I just always say just look at the schedule because the schedule is more accurate than what I'm saying today because things constantly change and I try to keep the schedule as updated as possible. So just keep an eye out for that.
Correct.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Sap, it's good to see you again.
Always good to see you, Sap.
Always appreciate the support. And until next time, we will catch you all later.